Alright, welcome to Art with Ian. This is episode 8 of the real-time painting series we've been working on. So today I'm going to start with the Master Sword, as I said I would at the end of the last episode. So I've gone and found a couple references. This one here is probably gonna get me most of the way there. It's not the right color, it's like a 3D print or something. But I can see the forms. I can see the actual shape, so it tapers off to a point at the outside and then gets thicker on the inside. I can see how it all kind of comes together, and that's what I really needed. So I've got that. I'm going to create a layer over the top of my link and dappled light and all that stuff. And I'm just going to use like probably my chalky render brush so I don't have too hard of edges, but something that gets some paint down. I'm just going to start to build this thing out. I do have another reference that's got color on. Maybe I should turn that on so I can color pick from it if I want to. Now remember, my perspective, the halfway line is actually not really quite in the middle. It's like somewhere in here. So thinking about that, looks to me like the size of this bit here right at the handle here is bigger than I showed. So I'm gonna increase the size of mine. Maybe have that actually overlapping his hand some. That might give a nice feeling of depth to the whole handle, basically. Just everything. Okay. I think this color here is pretty fine for the geometric shape. It looks more like it's actually they've done like a diamond going up into there. I kind of like that, so I'm gonna go with that. Just need to get a little darker here so I can show this bit. Okay, I'll call that okay for now. I don't want to get too carried away with any real detail as I work on just blocking this in. And the reason I'm doing this on its own layer is so I can easily erase away things that I don't like and add things in that I like, and it's all going over the top of Link, which is convenient as well, since it clearly needs to be. Okay, let's take a look at what's going on. With this construction here around the diamond. So I'm gonna turn on this other reference. This color looks a little cheap to me, but it's kind of close-ish. So I'm just gonna take it and then I'm gonna go a little darker and a little less saturated, and that will make it look less cheap. So you can see there's a plane change here, and then it comes out and there's another plane change. It all kind of tapers down into the blade. So let's see. Got to think about my light and not the light on this actual blade. My light would be hitting this surface, and then again here, and then the part that actually has thickness that would be in shadow, just as it is in the reference as well. Okay, so that tapers off like that. See, into a point. Like that. Eventually this will get, link will get merged onto a layer, and then if I do need to do cleanup outside the silhouette or whatever, I can do that. Okay, I think this needs to come down farther, like to the point of this point here, like so. And this needs to come down a little bit more. Now I need to be careful I don't show too much of the bottom, because actually my perspective doesn't show as much of the bottom, as this sword is actually tilting more than mine is. So I'm actually going to adjust that a little bit, show a little less of the bottom. But I am showing the bottom of mine. His sword is coming back towards his body and then coming out a little bit. So it is a fairly good reference to get me pretty close. But it is not accurate to the degree that I want to be trying to copy it one-to-one, so I need to be careful about that. Okay, there's this is a cylinder, so we're just going to render it like a cylinder. It's also got some detail going right here, and then it kind of goes back down, so we're going to add a little bit more actually to this. And kind of just put in a line here to show that there's a separation. And get a little bit of a render to turn this form, just going darker on that side there like that. And that's okay for now. We'll do more with it as we get further into the detail levels. Okay, back to this. Okay, we need to create the shape that comes down into here. And then there's a little bit of thickness where this beds in. Alright. And then there's actually, how do I want to handle this? I think probably going to go a little brighter. Yeah, that seems okay. So there's a line right here that comes down to this point and goes up to this point, and then there's a plane change going up into this detail of the handle. So I'm actually going to have that be the part that catches light. And then this part be turning away. This can also catch light along here. And then I'm just going to kind of try and give this some nuance so that it doesn't feel overly flat. Just kind of show like a bit of light gradating around. Okay, this catches light along here. This is almost like a socket, a little area for the diamond to sit inside there. So we'll show that. That tapers and then comes out, it looks like, and then tapers again. So there's this detail happening right here. And goes into this bit that flares around. Okay. Okay, we're gonna get a little more subtle with the darkness here, so that the plane change is not a severe plane change. So we don't want it to feel too severe. And in order to, and the way we handle that is by making it closer to the value in the light slightly. But okay. Looks like this edge here in the lighting of their shot does catch light, and I kind of like the way that looks. It kind of gives it this sharp feeling. My lighting's not exactly the same, but I kind of want to try it just to create contrast here. We'll see what happens. Continuing to work on the shapes, just trying to get the shapes of this stuff right. Quite a lot of complex forms going on here, the way the forms come together, which is why I needed a reference. There was no way I was going to get this right without one. I mean, I could have faked it, I guess, kind of a thing, you know, but nah. Not really my thing. Okay. With our lighting setup, I think we need this to kind of hit shadow a fair amount right there. Add some more light here. Okay, let's go ahead and get this whole plane blocked in. Okay, we need this dark color back and show the bottom of this handle, or the bottom of this flared out piece. And this comes to a sharp point here. So I don't think we need to see any thickness, but we might see a little, maybe I'll just have it catch a little bit of light. Just like kind of a thing. Since I'm doing that on the other side, might as well do it on both sides and just see how it looks. Not sure if it's helping me sell those forms or not, but it's alright. For now, I'm going to leave it. Okay, changing the shape of this a little bit. All right. I think it's probably time to introduce the next stage of light. So I'm going to go lighter again and even like a little more towards warm. And we'll introduce a little bit of where light is really, like the actual sun is kind of hitting right here. Hitting right here. This is places we chose along here to hit. That one might be good right there. along here. Okay. Now we need to work out the detail. These kind of, there's a couple lines that come out. So it looks like they come from this right here. And I think as long as we get these in here fairly okay, like that's one of the main selling points, I think, from a distance read for the actual Master Sword that people identify with. I'm going to go ahead and rotate my canvas, make my life easier here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and we're going to give depth to these grooves by taking the light color that we're using and having light hit the bottom of the line. We could actually go farther with this if we really wanted to and actually paint the inside of the grooves, but I think that's just probably way more work than is really necessary. I don't think we'll get a read on that probably from a distance, so it seems kind of pointless. Okay, I'm gonna create a little more depth in this shadow right here. Just show that form turning better. I think this line is not quite right, so we'll fix that. Oop. All right, I think we could probably just about move on to the blade. At least to some degree here. So I think I'm gonna go probably a little bit more depth than this on the value shift, maybe. I don't know, but I'm just gonna grab this color. I kind of like this color here. It's got some warmth in it, and we're gonna see how that feels. I'm also going to change my brush to this hard round brush for right now. And that's definitely not anywhere near dark enough for what we're doing. And I'm just thinking probably I want my environment or a hint of it, so I'm gonna get the green of my environment and then just back way off of that color, and we're gonna try that. I'm using the hard round brush here because it makes it a lot easier to create the factory feeling edge, which this sword would be very well made, and it needs to have that feeling of a factory edge, in my opinion. Now I'm not going to do as much depth showing on this side because the perspective is turned away slightly. So the thickness of this tapered edge is slightly more narrow to kind of, actually this angle, this shot actually has the same turn a little bit, you can kind of tell. Alright, working on these edges here, trying to get it to feel right. Okay. That needs to come out there, just like so. I want to maintain a nice edge along here. Okay. I'm not really sure why this is cut off here in this, you know, the edges of this point here. The print of it or something didn't work, I'm not sure, but anyway. I'm just gonna kind of feel out what I think it is. Somewhere right about in here, I think works. And I do have a sketch somewhere that I did for this that I could bring back up, but it had some issues that I wasn't crazy about, like in the perspective. And I thought, well, if I'm just gonna be fighting with it, I might as well just redo it, and as I paint, you know, just paint the perspective in as I go, kind of thing. Okay, get back to our shadow color. Somewhere in there should be pretty good. Just a reminder to anyone who may have forgotten, or if you're new to the series, if you're not sure how I'm drawing these straight lines at an angle, you click down, you push down to create a dot, you hold down shift, and then you push where you want the line to go, and it draws a straight line between those 2 points. So that's how that's happening. Okay, I think I want to change this right here a little bit. There we go. Okay, back to my other color. And draw a straight line. Okay, let's take a look at the overall shape we have going here. Nope, too much. I think maybe we could actually create more, like more of width right here. Like so. And just looking at my perspective again right here. Okay, let's work on the Triforce. I feel like I've got like a slightly kicked out perspective happening right here. Like, there we go. Is that better? It was like really kind of weird. Okay, Master Sword. Master Sword. Triforce. I'm gonna do this on its own layer. That way I can change it anytime I want. That's not the perspective. And that's not the perspective. Ugh. Okay, that might just about work. Is that gonna get me the angle I want? Close. I could just make a triangle and put it into perspective the way I want. Is that better? Here's my center. Yeah, I mean, you can do this, like, I could be doing this a lot more correctly, if to say. You know, if I really wanted to have it be spot on, but I'm, you know, not making a vehicle designed for a company or something that's gonna freak out on me if I get it wrong. It just needs to not feel uncanny. That's pretty much my only issue with it. think probably fine with that for now. Turn the opacity down. Create another layer. Zoom more. And going even smaller. Now I know my light is coming from the top down, so our groove lines are going to be on these sides. That one might not have got really needed one over there, but we'll call it okay for now. That could stand maybe a little bit one right there. And let's go bright. Start to establish some light on this thing. Yeah, this one could get more. Oh, and then let's not forget the outside of it. Okay. I'll call that good. I'm going to merge these down. Actually, I'm going to leave the Triforce on its own layer for right now. Okay, now I think this could probably have some thickness outside of the actual top, like this right here. And it would do the same on the other side. We wouldn't see very much of it, but it would still do it. Okay, I'm gonna just add some width to this right here, a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna create a layer on top of my blade and clip it down and change my brush back to my chalky render brush. And now I'm gonna start to render some nuances, turn these forms and things like that. I don't know if you guys can hear my neighbor's dog, but that dog barks a lot. And it's got a really annoying bark, which is usually how it works when a dog barks a lot. Their bark is usually also really annoying. It's like just to really make it count. Okay, I'm gonna go a little lighter. I'm actually gonna use this. I'm gonna go a little lighter through here. And on this side, okay. Definitely gonna go lighter here. In the crook of this. Even this side will go lighter, even though it's on the shadow side. Excuse me. This also would go into shadow just because it's got stuff in the way of it. Okay, let's go bright. I'm actually going to go into the yellow a little bit. And start hitting the edge of this. I think probably right along somewhere on here we want to have like this all just washed together to some degree. Let's take a look at what we got happening. Okay, go back into that bright. I'm actually going to create a layer under the one I've been working on right now, just so I can go bold. I see. There's nothing actually on this. Yeah, helps. Oop. Wow. Went too far. Yeah, it helps when you get the clipping mask, the actual part you're clipped to, solid. Some of this was from the original sword. Let's see how that does for us. Okay, back to the clipping. Or back to the clipped layer, excuse me. And back to the chalky render brush. Okay, I'm just trying to decide how I want to handle this part down here. If I want to have like a little indication of the turn, and then also maybe I want to grab, probably want to get the color of the ground actually involved. And then like a darker color from the ground. A little bit of light in there. Okay, I'm gonna go to link really quick and paint that out because that's annoying. Okay, back to the top clipped layer and back to this bright. I'm gonna go under my, I guess the Triforce layer is actually blocking it more than I thought it would. Okay. Just want to get a little brighter right along some of these lines. Gotta be careful that I don't overdo it. And then up into here. And we could do something off this edge as well. And then this, right in this kind of corner here, I want that to catch light. Heavy. So it's going to basically start to break apart that feeling of the two, of the plane change, because it's just so bright right through there. But I got to be careful how much I do it. Don't want to oversell it. Okay, and then let's take our bright light color up into the top of the blade. Just to kind of decide where we think the sun is hitting and how much we think it should hit. Also, this is a chance for us to show a little texture. Where the sun is hitting, it could break off, start to break up, and little bits of the texture would catch that light. Let's see, do I want this to, yeah, maybe I do, just like so. Not sure I really resolved these forms very, very well. Like these two, the way that they work, but I'm going to be okay with that for the time being, because we're 45 minutes in to this episode and I'm still working on the Master Sword. So I knew this was going to take a while, though. This is not like I said, it's some fairly complex forms, and I'm trying to actually get a pretty decent likeness happening here, and that does take time. So, let's get really bright right here. Alrighty then. Feeling like we've just about got this thing to a place where it's clearly the Master Sword, and we can be satisfied for now with that. I'm gonna go a little darker in some of these places. Sometimes you go darker to go lighter, and I think that's really important to recognize. it's the play, the back and forth between darkness and light that creates contrast. So there will be times where if things aren't feeling very bright to you, it's not because things aren't bright, it's because things aren't dark. I think that's a pretty important one to log in the memory banks and just like have that concept kind of like before you get too carried away trying to make things feel dark enough, just make sure things are light enough. And before you get too carried away trying to make things light enough, make sure things are dark enough. I'm not sure how I feel about that last thing I just did down there. I want this edge to feel sharp and shiny, but if I put too much light on it, it's going to feel it's not going to feel right. So let's just go in and do this kind of a treatment. And I don't think that there's a particularly hard line here, so I gotta be really careful that I don't make that feel overly sold either. Like I think there's a bit of an ease. I think the form tape like turns at a kind of an eased angle. So this right here needs to be pretty soft. Maybe not that soft. Oop. Yeah, I could noodle forever. That's the problem. I could noodle forever. And we haven't even gotten dappled light onto the sword yet, so need to be careful not to get overly caught up here, because it is going to get pushed into the scene quite a bit by the dappled light. I wonder if I have time. I've got 12 minutes. Some of these here definitely need their transitions are not nearly properly sold enough. I'll make sure I'm on the right layer. Yep, I am. Dangerously zoomed in at this point, but I do zoom in this far on pieces when I want to take them to like a specific level. And as I've said, I think several times now on this particular series, I am going to be taking this pretty far. So zooming in is going to be part of the gig. Wonder if I should put a second line here, like this, just to establish a little bit more detail. I'm going to go back to my original layer so I can actually change the full-on form. because I was on a clipping mask, and from a clipping mask you can't actually change forms. Or I mean, you can't change the base silhouette of whatever it is you're working on. Okay, I better get out of this massive level of zoom here. It's fairly dangerous, and there's lots of ugly things happening. Before I do go though, put my shadow back in here, clean that line up. Clean this line up. I think that was supposed to actually come out from right there. Like that. Anyway, leaving the madness. Okay, I'm just gonna ease some of this stuff off now, for sure. All right, let's see what we got going on here. I never did do the top here. Should probably quickly do something with that. Oh dear. Okay, it's got line. Oh, bother. Okay. Take this light here. And then there's, so it comes down, then it's got another taper. So it's got like a ridge like this. Then another. Okay, and then just some sort of, I don't know, random detail. Just kind of show that it's like these shapes. You're doing this kind of a thing. I don't think it's overly critical, to be fair. I'm gonna go a little brighter here. I'm gonna call that okay for this moment. Because I do need to paint the hand as well, like get the hand painted up to a certain level. I'm gonna turn my references off. That was the Triforce. References out of the way. Okay, I want to put dappled light on this thing. So I'm going to just make the sword its own layer. I mean its own group, excuse me. Master sword. And I'm going to create a layer, clip it to the group. How much time do we have? 56. I have 4 minutes. So I'm going to go and get the color I used before for the shadows of the dappled light, that very, very lightly green, very gray, color. Might be a little too dark right here. Go up a little bit. Somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be exact. We can change it. And I think I have my chalky render brush. I do. And then just kind of looking at the shapes I had going with my dappled light before, I'm just going to think about where some stuff can be coming across. I'm not sure how high up I want it to go. I kind of feel like the shape is kind of coming down, like the tree's kind of coming down this way and around, kind of a thing. If I go up too high in here, it might start feeling a little weird. But I can experiment at least with one, like maybe one patch coming across up here. Just see where that gets us. Something there. I think that's probably about enough. I'm gonna go slightly darker now and just kind of show maybe a spot or two where there's a little more denseness to the leaves. I feel like we're getting a little bit of a confusing look for the eye down here at the tip of the sword, so I'm just going to push all of that in for now. And I think that feels a lot easier to look at. So I'm going to call that. And speaking of calling it, I do think that's going to be a wrap on this episode. Just try to put it a little bit right there. Kind of like that. We have reached the hour mark. So, we got the Master Sword painted. So that finally happened. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys are enjoying the series. If you did enjoy this one, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell for notifications of future videos. And I will see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Ring the bell for